It's not easy to save money when you're eating out at a restaurant, especially if you're ordering wine with your meal. The best way may be to BYOB, bring your own bottle. But which restaurants allow it? And what are the rules? Joining us now are Laura Baginski, she's senior editor of Time Out Chicago, and Jean Iversen, she's the author of the guidebook BYOB Chicago. Laura and Jean, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for
First of all, the appeal of BYOB. Jean, is it just about saving money?
That's part of it. You certainly can save a lot of money if you go to a store, purchase a bottle of wine retail. Perhaps it costs $10, as opposed to ordering it at the restaurant. It might cost $30. So, and then even if you buy it by the glass, the markup's as much as 500%. So you might wind up spending $50 on what you could have paid $10. So that's certainly one of the first things.
Laura, I have to tell you that from a personal standpoint, that's a big deal. I mean, if you go to a BYOB restaurant, your bill for the food could be about $35 or $40. If you go to a middling restaurant,
right,
and then you add 2 or 3 glasses of wine, and all of a sudden you're 60, 65. It makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference, and I mean, bringing your own, you save so much money, and then you can also choose what kind of wine you want. I mean, wine lists can be fairly limited, and if you like a certain kind of wine, and you can bring whatever you want. So you really have more choices that way.
But from a restaurant's perspective, why would a restaurant want to be BYOB? Why would a restaurant not want to have a liquor license?
Right, because the profits are supposed to be so much better with liquor. A lot of BYOBs are BYOB by default. They simply cannot get a license. But there are so many of those that all of a sudden BYOB became popular, and now restaurants are BYOB by design because they know that they can fill seats every night with that type of customer.
Or like this restaurant, the May Street Cafe, they want to focus on the food and not deal with what goes into having a liquor license. All right, Laura, let's talk about Chicago as a BYOB kind of town. For example, we're spoiled here, it seems, because there's so many choices. Is this the case in other cities?
No, it's not the case at all. And I, having grown up in Chicago, I thought that every other city was like this, but it turns out absolutely not. I mean, New York is actually changing a little bit because it's getting harder to get the ordinances to have a liquor license. But Chicago, by far, is the BYOB mecca of the country.
So people should take advantage of it. And there are other reasons, not just for restaurants not to have a liquor license. For example, there could be, religious reasons on the part of the restaurant owners?
A lot of owners, their religion doesn't allow them to drink, so they allow their customers to bring in alcohol, but they themselves, and they don't want their staff drinking. So,
for example, Bobby's Kitchen on Devon. Again, it's a restaurant that allows BYOB, but the owners themselves.
Right. Devon Avenue has a plethora of great Indian BYOBs for religious reasons mostly. So.
And is there a trend for more and more BYOB restaurants?
I think so. I think as people are becoming more wine savvy, they understand the bottle markup at a restaurant. It's sometimes, it's between 150, 200% sometimes. So if they know their wine and they know that they can get a bottle of wine at Benny's for $20 and they see the same wine at a restaurant for $50, they're not going to be so pleased because they know that they're being had a little bit. But I mean, that's how restaurants make their money. So I think as people become more wine savvy, they want more choices with their wine and they want to bring what they love. And BYOB gives them the opportunity to do that.
Jean, how about a restaurant that's in a dry district? People still have the ability to bring their own bottles to those restaurants?
I think that's the only way that they're going to be drinking at dinner, yes. There are a lot of dry districts still in Chicago. So it literally means no taverns, no liquor stores, and lots of BYOBs. So be prepared before you go because there won't be a liquor store nearby.
And what is the restriction? 100 feet from a school or something?
There are some state ordinances actually prohibit any business from obtaining a liquor license when you're within 100 feet of a school, a daycare center, a hospital, a nursing home, a library, and there's one more that I'm forgetting right now, but a church. Thank you.
So for example, we saw Trey Kroner, for example, it's in a dry district.
Yeah, right.
All right, well listen, let's talk about the actual, where the rubber meets the road. You decide to bring a bottle to a restaurant. What is the biggest faux pas that a person can make when they bring their own bottle to a restaurant.
Too much, I think.
Yeah.
I hear over and over from restaurant owners that there's a small percentage of customers that just bring in a disproportionate. So if you're going to bring in your own, I mean, it's a courtesy.
All right, what's too much? Say there's two of you. What is too much for a couple?
Well, I don't know Laura that well, but
You don't know how much I can drink?
No.
I would say, I would say 2 people, a bottle of wine
Yeah.
for 2 people to share.
our 6-pack between 2 people
I
is
mean,
reasonable.
Don't bring in the cooler full of Coors Light,
And
don't bring
people
a 40
do.
either.
People do
it.
I've heard
Really?
horror stories of people bringing actual igloo coolers and parking them in an aisle in the restaurant so that customers can't pass.
All right, give me
So-
an idea of what's an appropriate amount for 2 couples.
I would say 2 bottles of wine.
Two bottles of wine?
I think you're safe around there.
Give us some guidelines on corkage
Or
fees.
just keep ordering food. I think that's the thing, that the restaurant doesn't want people to linger with a lot of alcohol and they're not ordering food. I think as long as you're ordering food from the restaurant, they're okay with you staying there with how much you have to drink. They just don't want you taking tables away from paying customers. So.
Got it. Corkage fees. What are they and what are the ranges?
Well, if it's a BYOB restaurant, corkage fee generally is about $2 per person, and that covers things like the stemware they have to provide and the bottle openers, and sometimes it includes the service that they pour the wine for you. Although technically they're not supposed to, but many do. So that's the kind of thing that corkage fees cover. And sometimes they charge a little more if it's not a restaurant that's traditionally BYOB. If you want to bring a very special bottle in, if it's an anniversary or a special event of some kind, call ahead, make sure that they don't have it on their list, and then you'll often be able to bring it in for a higher fee, sometimes like $15 or the price of their cheapest bottle of wine, they'll charge you for that.
Jean, as far as tipping is concerned, as I was reading your book, I was interested to see what your tipping guidelines are. Tell me about those.
That's a very gray area, as tipping is in any, but nobody's really established a percentage for BYOB service because you're not paying a certain amount for that wine. You bought it retail, so I think the server appreciates any tip for if they're bringing you glasses and opening your wine and giving you a bucket of ice to keep it in, refilling your glasses, then I think that some sort of tip is appropriate. If they're really not doing any of that, I mean, if you're opening it yourself and they don't have glasses and whatnot, then I don't think there's any reason to tip because they're not providing you with any service. So.
But generally speaking, err on the side of tipping as opposed to not tipping, would you say?
Oh yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
I read another guideline of yours, which kind of, and both of you actually, in your article as well, Laura, and that is offering some of the wine to the waiter or to the sommelier?
Yes, I would do that if you're, like I mentioned before, if you're bringing in a very special bottle of wine that you've called ahead and asked if it was okay, if the restaurant already has a wine program. It's just a courtesy. Most of the time they'll decline it, but you never know. Like Michael Carlson, the chef at Schwa, he said he's learned so much about wine from the people who brought wine in, and people letting him have a sip. Right.
So it's more of a bonding experience with the people.
I've had restaurant owners tell me that too. They have had some of the best wine in the world because their customers have these cellars just stocked with great wine, and as a courtesy, they'll give it a taste to the chef.
Jean,
so.
quickly, a new law that people should know about who do BYOB. What is it?
Well, the doggy bag ordinance, or the Merlot to go, as it's called, just passed January in 2007. Basically, it means that if you go to a restaurant, order a bottle of wine, you don't finish it, just like your leftover fettuccine Alfredo, you can take that wine home with you. You just have to have these special bags that are being sold on the market. They're one-time use. They're transparent. As long as you seal it in one of those bags and don't open it, but before you get home, it can show proof of receipt that you actually ate at a restaurant. Then
in order
you
for
can
people
take it
not to
home.
run afoul of the open container
Right,
law.
right. It's a little murky in Chicago whether it's allowed right now, but I think they're working on reversing that. So, but in Illinois, that's the new
Probably
law.
safer just to cork it up and put it in the trunk,
Put it in
right?
the trunk and you're safe.
All right.
Good to
Laura
go.
and Jean, thanks so
So,
much. Appreciate your
thank
stopping
you.
by. Again, Jean's book is called BYOB Chicago, and you can get your weekly copy of Time Out Chicago at your local newsstand. Back in a moment with an unusual use for an empty bottle.